It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 57, Vengeance on Varos.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a cherry, Toby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, but the TARDIS will be free of the force field now.
Well, the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, you see.
Resulting reaction is Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your classic tri-weekly Doctor Who review podcast. This is us again. This is us.
It's a This Is Us review podcast.
This Is Us podcast. I have no idea anything about that show.
I watch it every week and
Do
cry
you really?
almost every.
That's all I hear is people
week.
talk about crying.
It's pretty darn good. There's problems, but it's pretty darn good. Everyone, I'm just going to put into the show notes a link to our This Is Us review podcast where Eric doesn't watch the stories and I do.
So you watch a show where they show people suffering and dying for
life.
Your own entertainment?
It's about... No, that's what this story was that we're reviewing.
It's a lot like Vengeance on Varos.
This one. Oh, who are you, by the way?
Oh, I'm Eric.
Yeah, and I'm Dan.
Yeah,
We're
I forgot our little thing. That's because I secretly hate that part of it.
Yeah, we could probably do away with it.
Get rid of it. I mean, people will figure out. I guess we got to say who we are.
Or we can make it more conversational, like we're doing right now.
Right. Hi, Dan. Hi, Eric.
Oh, hello, Eric.
How have you been these last 3 weeks?
I've been just fine, I guess. Yeah, things are good.
That's good.
Yeah, there's nothing
going
related
on
to
in
report.
Danville?
No. I mean, no, I'm getting anxious for a new series of New Who to come, but we got time to wait.
Yeah, when does it start?
We should know that, but we're a classic
It
Who
doesn't
review
matter.
podcast.
It's fine. That's out of
Classic
our wheelhouse.
It totally is.
I'm sick again, which stinks because the last time we did a review, I think it was the first time I had a fever. And I
you did.
talked at length about my fever dreams where I saw the source code of the universe. And then I got another fever, which I don't normally get them, a couple of weeks later, or a week later.
Yeah.
And then after that, I rolled into a cold. So I had a cold, and it was like right before last night I saw MGMT and Matthew Dear. Excellent show.
How was that show? Yeah, was it good?
Really good. I tried to get Dan to go.
I haven't listened to MGMT since the first album.
Well,
the second album just didn't do it for me.
Well, it's a masterpiece. Congratulations, it's a masterpiece, and even better, it's my favorite album of theirs. But the new album is very good. But anyway, we're not here to talk about MGMT.
Are we not?
Although we should, and we should probably talk about MGMT a little bit because they played Never-Ending Story.
What?
Yes. So they come out and like they do Kids, and it was like one of the last songs. And in the middle of Kids, if you're familiar with that song, they busted out into the Never-Ending Story theme.
That's insanity.
By the guy from Kajagoogoo, whose name I can't think of.
Wait, a guy from Kajagoogoo is the one who wrote the Never-Ending Story?
Yeah, dude, isn't it?
I don't know why that's surprising to me. It's like, that's so different than all of his other work. I don't know his other work, so that's no...
Yeah, no, I'm 99% positive, and now I have to just... I'm breaking podcast
No, I guess that's no
rules
weirder
by
than...
Googling it. Yeah, Limal, is that his name?
Yeah, everyone says yes. We all agree.
Yeah, Kajagoogoo. Yeah, I knew this. Why do I have to look this thing up when I know it was his solo album? So he was like, you know what? I'm taking a break from you, whoever the other guy in Kajagoogoo is. We'll always have Too Shy, but I'm writing this song for the Never-Ending Story. But anyway, it was awesome. It was a great show. And I really liked Matthew Dear, who I was not really familiar with, but he does not give a damn. And he was just sort of out there, and a woman with balloons all over her. And it's sort of like this industrial music that's also like by way of Roxy Music and Brian Eno and Bowie, but it was great. So those are my
amazing.
two recommendations for good stuff.
Okay.
But anyway, so we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Vengeance of Varos, right?
Yeah, Vengeance on Varos.
Yeah, I had one I will tie it in a little bit.
Yeah, do it.
I had watched pretty much 80% of the story, and I hadn't watched it last night, so I was texting you from the show, and I was like, we may have to push the show back a little bit because I was not watching it when I came home. I was rewatching clips of Never-Ending Story. Is what I was doing.
That makes a lot of sense.
I literally just finished it minutes, I guess, before
Cool.
we're recording now. So it's very fresh in my mind. We can jump right into Vengeance on Varos, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I just want to get into the story,
All right, so then hit the button. All right, let's leave.
Where's the button? Oh, there. Ready?
Yeah.
Reasonable man, lower the price of your commodity a little, please.
My people deserve fair prices for the Zyton 7 All.
Who else will buy from you if my corporation withdraws its contract?
We shall have to find other outlets, I should think.
You are not a rich planet. Zyton is all you have to sell.
There are other exports. We're expanding into entertainments and communications with some success.
How?
The Punishment Dome. We sell tapes of what happens there.
That is enterprising. Your idea, Governor.
Yes?
Are they really disturbing, these videos you sell?
They show what befalls those who refuse to obey the orders by which the people of Varos must live.
Torture, blindness, execution.
All the functions of the Punishment Dome are recorded as warnings to miscreants everywhere.
This is Vengeance on Varos. This is the second serial of the 22nd season in 1985, because we'll be in 1985 for some time. This is written by Philip Martin and directed by Ron Jones of the Jonestown Joneses. We'll know Ron Jones because he directed Black Orchid, which we liked.
I liked
Time Flight, which we did not like.
Oh, you mean Concord?
Yeah, Concord. Arc of Infinity, which was good, and Frontiers, which was good. So he's got a pretty good track record. On the planet of Varos, public executions are must-watch TV, literally. You have nothing else to do. It's a terrible place to live. The only thing that you have going for you is watching some guy get laser-brained. The population is poor, hungry, and as I said, their only joy seems to be from watching human suffering and death while voting, with or against a prisoner governor who must come up with solutions to try to help save this doomed planet. The Doctor and Perry arrive there seeking the mineral Zyton 7, and instead they find a planet of misery that's being manipulated by a mining company and a tongue-flicking, creepy worm man named Syl, who loves to get sprayed. That little delightful scamp, Syl. That is pretty much Vengeance on Varos. What did you think of the story, Dan?
Man, I haven't actually kind of figured out how I feel about it. I think overall, it was a fine story. There were some weird digressions there that we didn't quite need, like the whole mutation beam to make Perry have feathers. I don't know what the I don't know what the point of that was. There's some weird things. I mean, overall, I mean, it was a really dark story. I think that the satire of government and television and the brutality of it, all that, it was a little heavy-handed, but it was still interesting. I kind of liked that couple, Eric and Etta, who were just kind of the commenting on the whole thing as it goes, kind of I guess Running Man style.
Yeah, it was totally Running Man. Yeah. I loved it, and I loved that addition of Eric and Etta, like you're saying, that do not have any effect on the story other than their voting. But they're sort of this stand-in for the populace and almost like a Greek chorus type thing. Yeah. Every once in a while you see them and how they're interacting and how voting is and how a dumb population that's sort of tied to TV and desensitized and just sort of voting against their interests almost all the time. I thought that was... I actually really liked the story all the way through. I thought it was really good.
I mean, if for nothing else, this story had Syl in it, and
it did.
Damn, there were some interesting choices that actor made.
That was a weird. That was almost David Lynch like at certain points with his whole thing, and it was so weird.
Yeah,
and
I went and found I guess maybe it's on one of the DVD commentaries or something. I'm guessing, but I found on YouTube interview with the actor as he's talking about what he did with Syl. And so it's still, to remind people who may not have just recently watched the show, he's the alien who is of the Mentor race, which is kind of like a reptile kind of race, and he's the spokesman or main negotiator for the mining corporation.
In your research, are the
research in air quotes,
are the mining company made of mentors, or is he sort of a one-off weirdo because his guards are not of his race?
Yeah, no. I actually didn't come across that. I don't know that he is or not.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that whole mining company is a bunch of these worm people, or if he's just sort of their
right. If he's just unique, employed by them,
unique person or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but go on.
Well, so no, it's just that costume that he has to wear is all one piece, and he said he has to get like lathered up with lotion and Vaseline and slip in through the neck hole, and then everything below the neck is all connected in one piece.
So weird.
It's so disgusting. And he said he was at a friend's house who had a live snake. I mean, everyone's best friend has a live snake, so it was handling the snake and really studying it, I guess, in preparation for the role. I was staring at the snake as it was like flicking its tongue, smelling him, and he started mimicking it back at him. At one point, he just went, la, 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 la. He said, "That's it. Yeah, that's the laugh."
That was a keeper.
He was a keeper. He's like, Sil's probably a reptile. You mentioned that was kind of Lynchian in a way. I had a similar note. I feel like there's so many allusions to other things, other sci-fi stories and universes in this. Like, Sil kind of felt a little bit like
a third
Lynch's
stage
Dune.
guild navigator. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Dune stuff in here. Like they talk about and again, Dune is I think the most successful science fiction book. It's always in my head running, but it's a monumental book.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's like, there's this really wonderful drug, it only is on one planet. This is the planet. And then, yeah, you're right. He's sort of this...
He's got that Baron Harkonnen sort of thing in my head.
A third stage guild navigator. If you remember in that movie, they're in giant tanks of gas and these mutated creatures. The guild navigators are floating in it. And he's also on a tank.
Right.
When he's being wheeled out. So I can see that. And in Dune, when the third stage guild navigator approaches the Emperor to sort of find out what's going on with Paul Atreides, there's a bunch of men behind him, like all these like weird dudes in like black leather, like sweeping the ground, and it's very much like his entourage that's spraying him. So I can see a lot of that.
They are straight up slaves. They are not just entourage. They are
they're like slave gladiator. Like a guard, because at one point they try to, that whole weird execution scene where they're all going to get hung, and it's like, these aren't real ropes or whatever, and the doctor's aware of it because the cameras aren't on.
Can we keep talking about Sil for a minute?
Yeah, no, we can talk about Sil
because it's also time. Well, when I first saw, we're gonna do a whole hour on Sil. when I saw, so he never leaves that stand that he's wheeled around on that has the water tank in it, whatever. So whatever. I don't understand why, from a practical standpoint, he actually had to be in a suit that worked like that. He literally could have been standing through a trap that you don't see in the top of the thing, and that tail could have just been a prosthetic that was manipulated by someone's hand. I don't understand. That's what I thought. I thought he was actually standing, and that tail was manipulated by someone else for the effect. It just seems so much overkill for someone who you don't have to do it that way, and he must be so uncomfortable the whole time. I just felt bad for him.
Yeah, I didn't think it. I thought the costuming was pretty good for him,
except for the face.
The face was a little, definitely
around the face, the way that it kind of melded into the skin. But so it was definitely a very Jabba the Hutt sort of look they were going for. It, I think it would have to be, because that was 83 and this is 85, so that kind of makes sense. Right. And he definitely had that weird, that they explained later, but his weird style of speech where word orders kind of mixed up in a very Yoda sort of way. He only does it a few times, but it really caught my ear when he would say things like that.
Yeah, he was his own beast altogether, and it's such a weird. It was just so weird. All the interactions with him, and how excited he got, and creepy, and wanting to get sprayed, and
well, it wasn't just the spray. That was definitely weird. Just getting lathered up with the spray, but like. When he's talking about the the videos that they're making of these
he's
tortures.
So turned on by the violence.
His eyes going to go rolling around. He's practically rubbing his chest.
Yeah, and that's That's definitely to your point about the Harkonnens. I mean, that's sort of, heart plugs and everything else going on that Giddy Prime. If we're going to talk about Giddy Prime, we can certainly do that. But I loved all the hallucinations and the drug aspect.
Yeah.
This story is full of drug references. Just in terms of story, these levels, these catacombs are full of hallucinogens. Like when the TARDIS appears, the guard that's watching, he's like, "Oh, I assume that this is just a hallucination." And hallucinations make up. Don't they see a giant insect at one point?
Fly at one point. Yeah.
So like, there's tons of this stuff, and then there's one scene all the way at the end when the Doctor and I think he's with. Who's the prisoner that becomes a good? There's Arita, like the '80s punk hair metal girl, and Jandar, right? They're coming through the catacombs, and there's like, I don't know if it's like orange gas or there's like smoke in the air, and they are just smiling, and they're totally high.
Yeah.
And then you realize they're seeing their own hallucinations of themselves calling. But that's a total drug thing. The whole thing was just...
Maybe that one was... I didn't read the rest of it as drug-like at all. I just thought it was some effect that they have built in. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was some sort of mind raise, whatever.
Oh, it is. I mean, I'm saying, but if you're watching this and you're high in 1985, like, I feel like it was very...
Sure.
There was a lot of stuff there
Maybe
for
it is. You're right.
That
You're right.
To partake
of that. Yeah, so the whole thing starts off in a really weird way. Like,
it was green smoke. It was green smoke.
You're right. Yeah. It was so weird how it started off. Like, you start with the exterior. I thought that for a show that typically does model work really well, I think it's one of the strong suits throughout Classic Who. Some of the costumes, some of the other production design stuff may not be all that great, but I think the model work is consistently pretty good. The exteriors on this were horrible. Thankfully, you don't really see them like
many.
Twice,
right? Yeah,
you don't really see all the domes. But then it comes right in on Jandar, stripped to the waist.
There's a lot of chest.
Manacles.
Yeah, there's a lot of open shirts, chest going on. So I figured that was something for the fellas.
But it's also something for Etta, because we start with her transfixed watching Jandar getting laserized or dodging the beams, and she's got this weird smile on her face, and she was clearly in the middle of like taking her food tray back to the like she just stopped there and was transfixed. It was really creepy.
It's a weird mix
which works
of pain and pleasure, and there's like an S&M thing going on too, kind of.
S&M
and like
thing.
This is all the way at the end too, and we're going to get to it. But why are there a bunch of old men in diapers that have been stuck in the thing? Like, that comes out of nowhere, and they're literally in diapers, and it's like, okay, don't go near the tentacles. Yeah, that's some crazy stuff going on.
And they're cannibals. They're old men in diapers who are cannibals.
Yeah, that was weird.
I mean, it's super great. Throw it in. The more the merrier.
I love
that. Was just weird. I don't know why we needed it.
So basic story. So we have a society that, again, there's a very valuable, or the Doctor says in the beginning, it's a very valuable substance, this Zeiton 7. It's only located in one place. Happens to be this planet Varos, who I guess over time through corruption, this... I was going to say Spacing Guild, but it's another guild, has sort of bought one of the people there. I forget the character's name that they bought. He's in cahoots with them. It's
the chief. Well, it's the chief
officer, whatever his name is. I don't remember what his name is.
That's all his name is.
He's working with Syl, so Syl's paying him, and they're really undercutting the price of Zeiton 7. So they're hardly paying.
Drastically,
The country or the planet or whatever is starving to death. They don't have enough money. And somehow we've gotten to the point where governors are sort of randomly selected, and they have to make decisions, and then the people vote on whether or not they back those decisions. And if people don't back those decisions, they're killed, which is a great sort of analogy. You say it's a little bit on the nose, and it is. But for the political system, about wanting to, you have your whatever special interest groups that are really running the show, and you have to sort of get votes and stay in office and make decisions and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I hate to draw too many parallels to the current time we're living in, but it definitely felt like that. The point that you were saying, the governor says, the theory being that a man scared for his life will find solutions to the planet's problems, especially the poor unfortunate will discover there are no popular solutions to the difficulty he will find waiting for him.
Right, and so politicians that speak the truth, nobody wants to hear it, so you have to lie and do bad decisions, and society keeps crumbling, which I thought was cool, but how they got to that point over time, who knows, but who cares? You get the sense that this has been going on for a while, that this is
generations.
Generation after generation of governor has been publicly executed, as well as prisoners being executed.
Right. I thought you said it well in the intro, like a prisoner governor, because that's really what he is. Yeah. He's conscripted into doing this, chosen from one of the high-ranking guard. One of them will be selected to have to do this, and then another one pulls up the rank.
And it was cool too. I like the fact that the guards, and there's two of them that switch sides, so you see sort of the conflict within the people in charge about they don't really like what they're doing, but they're doing it because it's the way that things are. And you see them switch. The first one is almost immediately killed. Like he's.
Well, I wanted to say that's why I just laughed. Was like, so that's Rondell. He was a friend of John Dar, and
and I guess John Dar had been one of these guards or whatever, and he turned right because he learned too much.
I'll come back to that because there was actually I have the transcript from a deleted scene, I guess, that explains this a little bit more. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, he has become radicalized because he sees the opulent lifestyle that these supposedly opulent lifestyle that the ruling class live in. We see no evidence of that whatsoever.
No, assuming that's like Quillam with his mangled face, is he a member of the
we don't see any of that.
Or, we just don't see the rich people. Assuming the chief officer is a member of that class,
perhaps. But John Dar's being laserized in the S&M chamber, and Aretta's in a holding cell and talks to Rondell, and we get this whole backstory. So there's obviously some relationship between the three of them. Rondell finally, helps to get John Dar away. He gets killed immediately, and they never mention him again. They don't even turn around when he dies. There's absolutely no mention of him. He's just dead now.
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of you never see him again. Even at the conclusion, Arita and John Dar, they're all in the tunnel, and then all of a sudden they're immediately confronting Syl, and you never see what happens to Arita and John Dar.
Yeah.
Assuming they're alive, assuming they're fine, but they're not a part of the conclusion of the story.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Not at all. They're just kind of left out.
Yeah, and it's like literally the preceding scene, they're supposedly looking for an exit, right? So there's this Running Man scenario that you brought up where you are on TV because there's cameras everywhere and you can run through this maze. Yeah. And if you don't, and everybody gets killed, but I guess at the end is an exit to where, who knows? We never find the exit. They just end up... The next time you see the doctor, he walks into the room with Syl.
Yeah.
And there's that rushed ending, because I felt like the ending was a little bit rushed. It was
very rushed, yeah.
And you never see, do they just leave those two in the catacombs?
They're hanging out with cannibals.
Was there a scene before where it's like, all right, we're going in this room, you guys go back to that room? So it was a little strange.
Yeah.
I thought they would all be together at the end. It felt odd that people that you spent the entire show with, like John Dar, who the show opens with, or the story opens with, you don't see him again.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes a little bit to the one problem I had was some of these subplots that don't, well, really it was the mutation ray thing subplot that just had no bearing on it.
Weird. And it was a lot of makeup.
A lot of makeup. I feel like that was the whole point, was just like the makeup effects team was just like, we're going to spend all of our money just on this one story, and we're going to put feathers on Perry. That's all we want. But there was that. It wasn't huge. It didn't take up actually a lot of screen time, but it also had very little impact on the story at all. So why not cut that and spend more time with the way that it resolved? Because like you said, it really did just like, well, I guess the mining company's not going to come save you now, Syl, so you're on your own and it's all figured out. It just felt very rushed. But I think that's kind of true of some of the stories that we see.
Yeah, and I don't want to...
Like, here's a whole bunch of setup, and it's like, all right, we just got to wrap this thing up
Speaking of that first guy that we were talking about, that... as the guard that was friends with John Dar.
Rondell. Yeah.
He reminded me of that like space dude, space. What were they, like Ravagers or something in Terminus? Do you remember it was like those 80s? It was like the 80s chick, and then the glammed out. I was like, I don't know. I didn't bother looking it up to see if it was the same actor, but it seemed like the same.
I don't know.
Type of
I don't
character,
think it was, but it
probably
was that
isn't
kind of
the same dude, but
feathery hair and whatnot.
Yeah, he's instantly killed. Lots of people killed. The doctor, does he throw two guys in acid, or do they fall?
Clearly didn't. Apparently, this was a big controversy at the time. He
doesn't try to help them.
Correct.
He doesn't try to stop them. He throws an action
cavalier
line.
about it and very flippant at the end, but he does not push them in. He surprises the guards. One falls in on his own. He does not push him. He does fall on his own. He tussles with the other guard, spins him around, and then the first guard grabs the second and pulls him in. The doctor does nothing to try to stop them from falling in.
He makes no effort to keep these people from having their skin boiled off of them or eaten away at the whatever acid bath.
Yeah, and he makes this like, I mean, obviously disgusted face at like the first guard who comes up out of the acid, and he's got this red skin and boils all over him, and he grabs him. But it's not like, I'm not going to save you from that. And then he makes a little quip at the end, like, you'll excuse me if I don't join you. And then and then there's in the music, there's little womp womp little music going on whenever he does that. Like, we just saw two guys basically get boiled alive in acid, and it's played for lighthearted humor.
Yeah, pretty much. The body count's very high. All of the bad people that we meet are killed, whether they're killed by those tentacle things or thrown in acid.
They're either killed or they have a change
except for Syl, who's the worst of them, and it's corrupted his society. For some reason, he just gets let off.
Right. He's just going to have to pay a whole lot more for the Zyton.
That whole thing at the end doesn't make a lot of sense, because if Zyton is super rare and super hard to find,
it doesn't make any sense.
And they're going to invade, and they're on the edge of invasion. Why don't they just take the planet, take the Zyton, even if they discovered some extra stuff on an asteroid? First they say they discovered extra stuff on an asteroid, and then immediately next message is, we really need this stuff, so pay as much as you can possibly pay. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could argue, well, they don't say who discovered the asteroid, so maybe they didn't discover it and someone else did, and now they're in a rush,
so now
and they don't have time for war. But even then, war makes more sense, because this place is starving. They don't seem like they have much of an army. Just take it over and take the Zyton, and then it's yours.
From generations ago, they should have just done
it. Doesn't matter.
They should have just taken the whole thing. Yeah, okay, but I have a bigger problem with the Zyton 7. So the whole thing, well, okay, let me just back up even further. The story from the Doctor and Perry's point of view starts the same way that every story has started recently. There's a malfunction in the TARDIS, and then it's just the same thing.
It's the same thing. And
every time.
This takes place immediately following where we left them, which was, again, where they're fixing the chameleon circuit.
I don't know that it is.
This is the next story after...
Well, it's the next story, but it's not chronologically for them. Other things have happened.
I mean, in terms of when these things came out. We saw immediately preceding...
Yes.
So all of this stuff that she talks about happening, where I think he made her a cold lunch and burned it.
I have it.
They're running around corridors or whatever.
Since we left Telos, we've caused 3 electrical fires, a total power failure, a near collision with a storm of asteroids, twice managed to get yourself lost in the TARDIS corridors. I thought that was actually kind of funny. Wiped the memory of the flight computer and jettisoned 3/4 of the storage hold. You even managed to burn up my dinner last night, and she was supposed to have a cold dinner.
Wah, wah. They should have at least had one line, and you broke the chameleon circuit again, if we're never going to talk about the chameleon circuit, because we spent all that time in the previous story with the chameleon circuit changing. I don't know. I think someone wrote in, maybe we'll get to it at the end, that they do never talk about the chameleon circuit again as far as it being fixed.
So there is a deleted scene. I actually looked this up because some of what was happening I just wanted to review, and I found a site that actually has a whole bunch of transcripts of the actual story. And the doctor does say in this scene, "What more do you want? I've cleared it up as you requested. I stabilized the chameleon circuit." Perry asked, "Well, what will it materialize now as?" And the doctor says, "A police box, I think," and then refers to other things that they've materialized as when they've had other adventures that we haven't seen.
Scene that was cut?
Yeah, it was a scene that was cut. So take it for what it's worth. It was cut for a reason, I guess. But so we don't see anything more with the chameleon circuit, and he's stabilized it. And now they're just going to do the
that's
police
a small
box.
thing. It doesn't really matter.
But I think the thing is pointing to larger. So the 6th Doctor starts off purposefully very different and very kind of unlikable. I mean, no, I'm going to say definitely unlikable in that he tries to kill Perry. So he's definitely unlikable. But now they're kind of moving him in a direction where he's both supremely confident in his ability, but also obviously inept. So I'm not
well, how do you mean he's inept just in the fact that he burned her lunch and it was supposed to be cold?
He also jettisoned part of the TARDIS. He gets lost in the corridors. He started fires. Like, he does this all the time. And in the previous stories, he's screwed up the chameleon circuit.
I feel like they're making him more absent-minded. But still brilliant. He's brilliant, but he also
definitely
screws things up.
But that mix of hyper confidence for no reason, or for or being undercut by what he actually does, I guess. I'm not sure.
I liked him more.
It's still not my favorite thing that they're. I definitely like him more in this than I have in previous stories, but I still don't like 6 that much yet. So
no, I mean,
I don't know.
This was my favorite outing of his of the 3 we've done. Right, I think we've done 3 at this point.
Yeah. This is definitely one of the better stories.
Perry is hard to like, only because I just feel like she's constantly screaming and whining and whatever, right?
She's always damsel in distress.
Yeah, I feel like there's I hope something different happens with her at some point.
I agree. I don't think it's the actress's fault at all. I think she's fine, and the character itself can be charming. I thought she was actually charming in her first story. I was very excited to see what they were going to do with her.
Her first story, it felt like she was more of like someone that when she was determined and she would do things, and even if it was dangerous and
headstrong.
None of that's happening anymore.
None of it. And that's a real shame. I would like to see her do more. That definitely is why some companions stand out as being so great, is they have so much to contribute.
Doesn't she get captured twice in this story?
There's so much back and forth in this where they get captured, they escape, they get captured, they escape, they get brought back to the control room.
That happens often.
It happens at least 3 times.
Right. Perry's captured, turned into a bird woman. Then the doctor somehow frees her by blowing the machine up, and she's fine.
Yes.
And then she wanders, she's still dazed from it, and then she gets captured again.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a lot of that.
And I've mentioned that in previous stories too. Just that whole back and forth that you just repeat the same places over and over again. It just gets a little.
Yeah, and
it feels like it's unnecessary.
It's hard to sort of get into her head about why she even wants to be doing any of. Like, why isn't she asking to go home? She always seems to be angry at the doctor for screwing something up, and she's always in danger of dying.
Yeah.
What's she really getting out of it?
I would like to see a story where they just have an awesome adventure where
she's
gets
curious
to see
about
cool
things.
She's
driving a little bit of the story. I don't know.
Exactly. Instead of going to these stories where at least half a dozen people die, her life's in peril over and over again. Like, it just doesn't sound like it's that great. Or even if, as they do in other places, they make reference to other adventures they've had that were great.
They do, but they're usually peppered with insults, which is also fine. I mean, that's sort of a playful banter that they've got going on, and I'm okay with that.
I guess.
I just wish that there's just so many times that the only thing Perry's doing is screaming or
criticizing
him on screen. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's not a great dynamic. I do feel like because they're Colin Baker or the whole production team, they're kind of evolving what this Doctor's incarnation is like. Maybe that will get better. I just hope that dynamic gets better for Perry, and I hope at some point she can not have to wear high heels.
She's wearing high heels in single color outfits. Where it's just like a super tight
with the red
shirt
shoes
and whatever connected to whatever pants that she's in.
She had red shoes, red belt, which is great. Hey, match up. But with open-toed heels running through a gauntlet of death. Like, just take them off, maybe. Just take them off. How about that?
Yeah,
break the heel and run. I don't know. It just...
And they're always just saying her full name all the time. Like, she's always out of it, and then he's got to say her full name and recover her memories or something. I feel like that's happened before, right?
I don't know.
Right when it
didn't seem all that interesting to me. It's like that part of it. Like,
I still love this story.
The fact that
I don't
just the fact that whole mutation thing, and then it leads into Quilliam's story. Like, he's some sort of scientist, and that all comes from the mining that kind of happened accidentally. These miners, when they're mining, their hands turned into claws with fur to help better dig. Like the whole, it just
it's like hyper evolution.
It's so useless.
Yeah, it's hyper evolution that part actually makes sense. But why is Perry turning into a bird?
Oh, right. The whole So maybe is it more interesting? Let's figure this out. So Quillam, we first see Quillam talk about this with Big Hair Lady. I'm sorry, John Dar's wife, Oretta. So he's saying to her, like, I wonder what's going on in your head. You're going to turn into something really interesting. We don't really know anything about that. And then later we hear, like, whatever thing is in your head plants a seed. So however you see yourself, this beam
so she
brings
sees
it out
herself
in full.
somehow as a bird.
As not worthy. Well, no, yeah, Perry sees himself as a bird. And he says, because she wants to fly away. Obviously, natural scientific deduction
in which
there.
Case, like,
well, she does say something later. I thought I could fly.
Yeah,
so maybe. And then the other one turns into some sort of reptile that Syl gets aroused by.
Yeah, Syl is such a creep. It's
such a creep.
It's a weird,
so great as well, but such a creep.
It's such a weird, like, again, everything's got a tinge of sexuality to the pain. Like, that's what I mean. It's got this S&M thing kind of going on too with the way. And Quillam's like that too. Like when he confronts him at the end and the TV cameras, and he does that little rant about, I'm going to watch you die, and it's going to be this horrible. Do you remember he does that little speech?
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, no, and he cuts the thing, and the tentacles kill all of the guys.
He rigged a trap, but there's no way that the doctor. How did the doctor know that those things were instantaneously poisoned to the touch? That we don't see. He just happened to know that it was like super deadly poison ivy. Okay, here's the thing I was kind of leading up to before. So there's a problem with the TARDIS, as always. They get stuck in a weird time-space void, and they have no power, so they need to find this Zaton 7. We find out that Syl's...
I believe, Dan.
What?
Isn't it Zaton 7?
Zaton.
We have to be careful with our pronunciations because
I've been corrected many times.
We will have some of that in our
yes, anyway, we'll come back to that.
People get very angry if I don't say Nissa. If I say Nisa.
Nissa. Okay, so we'll come back to that. But so my point being, this precious substance, we find out from Syl after the governor passes out, that this mineral is so prized because every engineer in the known galaxy needs it for their space-time craft. But they're dropping this, like, that there are space-time craft all over the known galaxy. Like, I know that other civilizations do have some form of like time travel, and the Time Lords are not entirely unique in that. They just have more control than others, etc. But how is that? It just seems like a very like throwaway thing. Like, oh, of course, all these engineers all over the galaxy with their space-time craft. It just seems like a weird thing to kind of throw in here. Especially when they say, they capture Perry one of the first times, I guess, and they're interrogating her, and she says she's from a different century. Oh, you're not going to believe me. Of course we're not going to believe you. Well, why wouldn't they believe her? There's engineers all over the place with space-time craft. So, I don't know. Just that element of how the universe works in Doctor Who, I find a little confusing. Like, this is the only place. So I guess on Gallifrey they have to deal with Varos or whatever mining company gets this mineral from Varos. Like, this is just a known thing.
Yeah, the mineral part is very strange too, because we've never heard about it before, but it's essential, I guess, to the TARDIS or to fixing the TARDIS. So the TARDIS needs it in some capacity.
Or at least for time travel as a whole. Right. For any vehicle to do any time travel, you need this. Which means
that if this really is the only source of the stuff, why aren't more mining companies attempting to make contact with the planet and offer them? Why do they have this exclusive contract, even if the people have gotten there and they're exploiting them via, what's the guy, the chief officer?
Yeah.
You would think if it's the only way that you can sort of do this, are people just unaware that it comes from this planet, and the Doctor does because he's a Time Lord and they know where everything is? Like, it seems kind of a little strange that it's used for time travel, and there's a lot of time travel going on.
Apparently, there's a lot of time travel because
they say it. So there's a market for it. And I understand the mining company is getting the stuff, refining it, and selling it to everyone else, and that's their business model.
Sure,
but it seems like
maybe
why aren't other people
we don't know the backstory.
to get in on the Varos action.
Right. So Syl does make a reference to the fact that these are these exclusive rights that they've obtained, and that he's completely paranoid that the Dr. Perry or anyone else really is coming from some other rival mining organization.
Yes.
So, I mean, who knows? Perhaps, I don't know, just guessing, perhaps this mining organization keeps a secret of where they actually get their resources from, so no one else can actually approach them for another contract. So that's why he's worried about corporate spies coming in to figure it out or whatever. So that whole part, that's interesting, but that's not the thing that bothers me so much. Is just like
you just
casually dropping that there's a huge market for this mineral because of all the space-time travel that's going on in the known solar system.
Well, obviously the Cryons,
in every solar system.
Obviously the Cryons were traveling in time.
So I guess they've purchased from this mining corporation.
Because if we get into my whole issues with Attack of the Cybermen, which we'll cover because several people have explained that to us via email or other form.
I guess.
Anything else?
Sort of
Do you have anything else with Vengeance? I feel like we covered a good deal of it.
Hey, so what was the vengeance? I mean, because like you said, Syl doesn't get his comeuppance. The mining company doesn't really get any revenge on them for having screwed over the civilization for what seems like generations.
Well, is that what they consider the voting? Is the way that they're punishing the wrong decisions of their leaders? But they're determining what decisions are right or wrong. Maybe That's a good answer. That's a good answer as I have. I don't know. But they could say, "Oh, this politician has done me injury, and now I will get my vengeance on them via whatever that ray was." What was that ray? It was like a cell massager or something.
It's a cell massager.
You can't get massaged too much before it goes. Yeah, that's a weird thing.
Though.
That was a weird thing. How the governors are killed, and they're like, he's only got one more cell massage. It wasn't a massager, but whatever it was. It was just a weird light death. It was a kind of weird.
Yeah.
I do like that the quaint, when they decide to kill the doctor, and they're like, let's just do the old-fashioned hanging. Like, it's just like such a quaint little way of doing an execution.
Yeah, and I kind of like that the doctor had deduced that it wasn't real, that the nooses weren't tied because the cameras were turned off, and then he's the one that kind of reveals that the Varosians are getting screwed for all this further money that they should be.
Yeah, because that was fine. He's aware that it's very valuable. They're not, and I guess to your point, it's an exclusive deal, and they've shielded the media.
Even then, so the doctor knows that it's a huge valuable. There's a lot of value to this minerals. Again, indicating there's a huge market. I mean, there's a lot of time travel happening, and we just don't see that. There's no evidence of that. Really,
some stories there's some stories that time travel's a big deal to try to find the Cybermen are trying to get time travel. The Daleks are trying to get time travel. This is a big deal. And to your point, it's like,
every known solar system needs it for time travel. I'm sorry, I'm just really stuck on it because it just feels like that is a big foundational shift in like our understanding of how the universe works in this in these stories. I don't know, bothers me.
What else do we have? I feel like we probably covered.
I think we pretty much covered
all the bases. I mean, we talked about.
Yeah, I mean it's horribly violent. There's a lot of gunplay. There's the acid.
What about
baths.
the ending? I thought the ending was also awesome, where you take the the chorus that we talked about, the two people that they spend their whole time voting and watching it. When the TVs go off,
and Eric,
and they're left on their own, and they don't know what to do. And I thought that was such a cool way to end it. Because it feels like, well, that's us as a society. If we stop watching this crap that they're feeding us and we start voting by thinking about what we're voting for, we're free, and that freedom comes with the cost of sort of being alone and naked outside of Eden, and you don't know where to go or what to do. So I thought that was cool. I thought it was a cool ending.
It had a real Samuel Beckett sort of feel at the end. But yeah, that was nice, and I actually really, like I said at the beginning, I liked those characters and the function they served, especially
like that guy voting for her too, and like their back and forth. I thought was great because it's a lot like
right that she was a true believer and that he was more of a skeptic and cynic, and they're back and forth, and I liked watching them as they were viewing the whole Running Man sort of scenario and commenting on it as it goes. And I hate this part.
Yeah.
No,
that was cool.
Kinda, yeah,
that was very cool. And the governor character is also interesting because he's very layered. Because he is a prisoner and he is being tortured, and you get that sense that he does want to do the right thing, but he's also not a good person. Like when he's trying to figure out early on, I mean, he talks about using Perry as bait, I think, or even killing her at one point, or like he's not a nice person.
He's trying to survive.
But he's using people in the way that all politicians and people of power use people. So it's like it's not a black and white, this is a good person, this is a bad person. I thought that kind of was an interesting take on the story.
But then when he does get his freedom at the end, or he's not under the fear of death, like he does do the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
I like that little speech that he gives to the guy that also eventually turns and saves their life. Right. Where he's like, let Perry go, or let us go, or just kill her. After they kill me, just kill her so they don't have to do the cell massaging to her again. And then he comes back and is like, I tried. We're both going to die. I was like, oh, man, what a letdown that was. But technically, she's not going to die. She's going to get cell massage for a few hours. But yeah.
It feels good. It's refreshing. I think that nails it. I think that's overall. I like the whole story. Weird side digressions that we didn't need, but still kind of.
Yeah, definitely thumbs up. My favorite Colin Baker story. Easy. I loved a lot of the ideas, and I think it was a good science fiction story all around.
Unfortunately, I think we've been. It's been indicated to us by some of their listeners that this is considered one of the better stories.
Oh, I totally get that. I mean.
But that means that we've hit the high water mark, and it's all going to be.
Well, it's not going to get worse than Twin Dilemma, right? I mean, that was.
I know. I think we know the outer bounds
the low
of Baker.
Point, so I'm fine going forward.
Good.
Well, we have an exceptional amount of viewer mail.
Yeah, viewer feedback. Period.
Do we have any specific to this story we could do first?
We do.
Good.
Real quick, from Twitter. Christops Paddock wrote to us, Vengeance and Varos, cannibals, public executions, acid baths, oh my. So that was it. That actually set me up before I'd even watched the entire thing. I hadn't even seen the cannibals yet. So actually, because of that, thank you, Christops. You completely colored my interpretation of when we see them getting their food rations. Etta and Eric are getting their food rations, and Eric says, "What is this food?" And she said, "It doesn't have a label on it." I thought it was a whole Soylent Green thing happening, which very well might be the case. I don't know, but you definitely colored my impression of that. So you made my watching more interesting. So thanks. No, but that was the only thing. I'm sorry, I forgot to actually put out a call for comments from you folks about what you thought about this. So just tell us afterwards, like we do with all the other ones. Eric, where would you like to go? Because we have, we did mention on Twitter, the Hand of Fear was the one who's been correcting us on our pronunciation. So thank you for trying to help us both figure out what episode. I mentioned that there's a freeze frame in my mind from when I was a kid and my brother was watching Doctor Who and it was a Baker story and I can't place it. And he's trying to help. So Hand of Fear, thank you. I will check out the Android Invasion to see if that is the one that I'm thinking of. And also, thank you for gently correcting our mispronunciation of Nissa.
Yeah, well, I would
sometimes we say Nissa, sometimes we say Nissa. I
definitely say Nissa, or have said Nissa. I'm trying to say Nissa. But I feel like in the show, didn't someone at some point probably say Nissa too?
Maybe. I don't know. I went back and rewatched a couple clips, and I was like,
I apologize for getting it wrong for so many years.
Yeah. So bad habits, they die hard. So maybe we'll get it right. If we have any additional stories featuring Nissa, we go back around again.
Yeah, and I will mispronounce future character names. So if you want to start your lists up now, ahead of the time, if you've got this time travel technology that seems to be so easy to get.
Yeah, we've got 50-something stories. You can go back and take a look and see all the things we've mispronounced. But thank you for that.
All right, do you have anything? I wanted to. I have to read.
We have iTunes reviews. Do you want to save those?
Save those for the end.
As dessert at the end? Okay.
So I just wanted to read, because a few episodes ago, we had mentioned that a listener, Dan Smith, had done a poster, a very cool poster for our 50th show. So if you remember that, we did a live 50th show, which was very cool. And one of our listeners sent us in original comic book art that they did of Tom Baker talking about our show. I'll include a photo of it on the listing. Obviously, you can't see it now. It's an audio podcast.
Awesome. Did we put it on? It was on Twitter as well. So it's there, but we'll feature it.
Yeah, we did. When it first came out, we had a photo, but we never had the actual thing. And he had sent it in, and it just never got. It took months to get to us. I mean, he's sending from the UK, I believe. But in any case, thank you. And you included a note, so I will read through the note here because you were nice enough to write it. So I will say that you wrote, "Hi, Eric Grissom and Dan Johnson." Full names, very official already. As you can probably tell, I'm a big fan of the old Doctor Who show, and I hope you like the comics panel I created to celebrate your upcoming 50th episode. We do. Thank you very much. It was very kind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I started listening to the show around the time that you had started on the Peter Davison era and listened to every single episode of the podcast and loved it. Well, first off...
In all caps, exclamation point.
Yeah, first off, thank you. Sorry you listened to all of them, but also thank you for listening to all of them. Some of them early ones are probably a little rough.
Wait, you're saying they've gotten better?
No, they're all good. Yeah, what am I kidding?
Oh, great.
How do you perfect greatness? Since on your 50th episode, you will be reviewing the 5 Doctors, I thought I'd like to share my opinion on it. So he's going to give us his opinion on the 5 Doctors. I think that the 5 Doctors was an okay story. It was presented brilliantly, but the story wasn't perfect. It was nice to see past companions return, such as Susan Foreman, and to see all the past Doctors unite, with the exception of the 4th Doctor, Tom Baker, and the original actor for the 1st Doctor, William Hartnell, who passed away in 1975. Typical Hartnell thing to go and die before he could be in the story.
Oh, Hartnell.
The story takes a while to catch on, and there were some scenes that could have been left out. And the best monster appearing in that story for me was the Rastion Warrior robot. It is a simple design, but that is what makes him menacing. And finally, the end credits have a slightly different theme, I think, which is brilliant. I also have a few stories I would like you to add to your list of episodes that you're going to review. So this is great. Attack of the Cybermen, we just did. The preceding episode to this one, you'll hear that we reviewed that one. Dalek Invasion of Earth, we should do that. Moon Base, a partially complete story, but a great one. I hate partially complete stories because we don't get the whole thing.
There are some. I don't know if this is one of them where they did some of the reconstruction of it with the animation, but we'll take a look. Yeah. I know there are a few of those.
Moon Base, Seeds of Death. Lots of people have recommended Seeds of Death.
Yeah.
I believe I put it on...
I think it's on there.
No, we have Seeds of Doom. 2 different stories, very similar titles. We're already doing Seeds of Doom. We will check out Seeds of Death and the Time Monster, who I think people also recommended, and that is on our list. That's in our round 2 section.
I'm kind of scared of this one because several people, like you've said here, it's
not very well received.
Not very well received story, but we make a funny review, which just is code for saying it's going to be a horrible slog, but you want to see what we say about it.
Well, thank you, Dan S., for your great artwork and for the nice note, and we're glad you're listening.
That was really, really nice of you. Thank you. And the artwork was great. Above and beyond.
Hold on. If you want to send Dan and I stuff, because we love stuff, we've gotten mugs. Now we've gotten original comic art. P.O. Box 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey, 07701. Thank you.
That's also on the website if you want to check it out there. If you want to send anything else to us, you can send it to us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. Otherwise, we have some other stuff. On the site, we had a comment on the Attack of the Cybermen. Speaking of which, I will always say Cybermen because that's the way I do it. Okay, and this is from someone calling themselves Paul Paranoid. There's a lot here.
Now, this is the explanation of our questions regarding Attack of the Cybermen's plot, correct? Because I feel like this is the long one where he sort of breaks down what he thinks happened.
Yes.
Okay. So you want to take a stab at it, and we may paraphrase a little bit just for the sake of time.
Because it is quite long.
It's a very long and involved thing.
Which we love, thank you. But this is a lot for... Let's hit it. Okay. And thank you for saying that the show makes you really happy. It makes us happy to do it. So, Paul says, Telos and Mondas. I'm not sure there's a continuity error because the Cybermen presence on Telos is not dependent on Cybermen of Mondas surviving. Mondas was the birth planet of the Cybermen, but they had sent cyber fleets into space, which fought the Cyber Wars and ended up being broken into survivor groups scattered throughout the galaxy, one group which is Revenge of the Cybermen. Note Tom Baker, Tin Soldier's speech. Okay. The Telos tombs house one of the larger groups that escaped from that war. Other Cybermen Space Navy survivors go on to keep modifying themselves, as we've seen through other stories. The development of the Cybermen in the classic series seems to be sequential. So as the Cybermen change in the series, that seems to be their sequential historical timeline. And as they replace more and more of themselves with synthetic organs, they seem to become more able to master time travel. Okay. Thank you for all this, and I get that. I think we have seen that there were.
Yeah, but I'm already confused because I understand that we're on Mondos or Mondas. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it.
Oh boy.
And if I'm understanding this feedback, the Cybermen are sending out explorers, dispatching.
Sure.
And one of that group, one of those groups of Cybermen, arrived in Telos. Makes sense. Yep. They're scouting it out whether or not this is a planet we can retreat to should something happen, which it does. And then they arrive, which is fine. But how do the Cryons or the Cybermen at that moment know that the planet's going to explode and that the Cryons are well aware of their own subjugation and that they are going to be destroyed? Like, are the Cryons also have time travel capabilities? Is that the case? Mm-hmm. And then they traveled back from their own future into the past in order to... Like, it's so convoluted. And then they have to talk to... what's the character's name?
On Earth,
Earth. And somehow he is able to communicate with them through time and space. Like, it just gets a little bit... It's a little much.
I do appreciate the stab at it. The explanation doesn't help clarify, but at least it's an attempt to try to.
And if the Cryons have the ability to talk to someone through time and space, why don't they talk to themselves in the past and build up an army to defend against the incoming Cybermen invasion instead of bothering with Earth in the first place? I mean, I
guess the argument is that it's not that they're not in a different time.
Well, no, they say like to the Doctor, "Oh, we've accepted our fate. Therefore, we want to stop the Cybermen from preventing the Earth from destroying Mondos, which would lead the Cybermen to taking over their own planet." And they're like, "Well, we're cool with it because that's our fate." It's like, well, are you? Because it's all messed up. I don't know. Keep going. Is there more? Did he?
There's a ton more.
Okay, maybe he answered.
Just for the sake of brevity, it's probably not the best thing just to read all of this on air, but there is more. If you want to go to the show page for that episode, Attack of the Cybermen, number 56, the entire thing is in full there. But thank you, Paul. We really do appreciate the fact that you listen and that you enjoy it. That actually makes us very happy to continue doing that. And you had some recommendations on some books edition. Those are things I'd actually love to do at some point.
Can you read some of the book names? Is it a?
Yeah, it recommends the book series About Time. By a Doctor Who alumni, Lawrence Miles and Tat Wood, which address every conceivable Doctor Who continuity problem as well as much else in their utterly terrific and exhaustive and extremely entertaining books. That sounds great. I would love to give that a shot. The Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy and TV movie are covered in that together in the last volume. So definitely says we should check that out. So that seems interesting. Will do. Thank you very much. On top of that, we did get some comments from the Facebook page on Attack of the Cybermen. Do you want to go through that real quick?
Sure.
Justin Sane says, "Woohoo! I needed something to listen to today. As far as Attack of the Cybermen, it's all right. Nostalgia from my childhood. Haven't seen it in an age. We'll get to it in my 80s rewatch of Doctor Who in about a week. As a kid, I loved the Cybermen, loved Linton being back." Agreed, Linton. There you go. Let's see. Joe replies, "Mondas is the planet that blew up in 1986. This story and Tomb of the Cybermen take place on Telos."
Yeah, and we understood
to which
that.
Eric replies,
it was just the fact that, we're a year before the event that led to the attack of the Cryons, the complete attack of the Cryons. So how does it all connect? Seems odd.
Or another way that you said, my question was, how can the story take place in 1985 where a displaced Cryon race enlists the help of Linton to stop the Cybermen's plot to stop the Earth from destroying their home planet of Mondas, which in turn puts the Cryons in a position they would need help.
Yeah, it was late at night when I was writing that reply, so my
answer
is probably just as confusing as the plot.
It's fine. But thank you, everyone, for the feedback on those. Please give us more feedback on what you thought of this story, and particularly if you have any drawings or paintings of Syl that you want to give us, that would be really cool. Lastly, Eric's favorite thing ever.
Yes,
we got some iTunes reviews. Actually, we have 4 to talk about. 4. One new one from the U.S., and then we get ones from other countries kind of on delay through a service, so we didn't see these in time for the last one. But we did get our 1-star review
we got a 1-star
from
review.
Oliver 26T from the UK on March 7th. Oliver says it's useless, bad sound quality reviews presented by 2 uninformed, irritating presenters.
I take offense to bad sound quality.
I think our quality is great.
No, I'm sure.
Oliver says, I wanted to be educated and entertained, and I was neither.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained?
That's totally fine. I'm sorry that we weren't the Doctor Who show for you. There are about 3,000 other ones, so I'm sure you'll find one that
I wanted to be
you.
educated.
You're not by us. You'll be educated by our opinions, but not by our deep, extensive research.
Well, sorry to
That's
see
not
you
what this
go,
show is.
Oliver 26T.
On the other side of that, though, from Australia, literally other side, from Supervoc 007, says, splendid chaps, both of them. If you're a fan of Doctor Who, this podcast is for you. Listening to Eric and Dan discover the joys and flaws of the classic series is ridiculously entertaining and terribly nostalgic. Highly recommend! Exclamation point.
Thank you, Supervoc 007.
That's awesome. And on that one, we have someone else from the UK. WHO Fan 12 says, I really enjoyed this podcast. It always brings a smile to my face. Your chemistry with each other is really funny to listen to, and the fact that you were reviewing my favorite show makes it all the more better.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And lastly, from the U.S., from Tom86, 5-star review, says, new reviews from the old Doctor Who show. Great to have new reviews for classic Doctor Who during the downtime between seasons of the new series, obviously. Reminds me why I prefer the classics. Good banter from fellow fans with an insight of what it's like watching Doctor Who episodes for the first time. Would love more episodes, but then they would finish the run too fast. Guys, 3 weeks is pretty much everything we can manage for us, but we appreciate that you want more.
Perfect world, this would be a weekly podcast that I can understand people
that'd be
wanting
a nightmare
that,
world.
But I can't sustain that.
Can't possibly do
with
that.
everything else going on in life.
No, I know. But thank you very much. So those reviews help
awesome.
other people find our show, and the more people listening to it, the better our own egos get, which is really what this is all about.
Yeah, and if you want to leave a review yourself, you can go to iTunes, and if you prefer Stitcher or we're on Google's
Play Store,
do they even have, like whatever.
Yep,
leave it wherever you listen to it. Leave a review. We will read it. Obviously, even if it's a 1-star review, we'll leave it. But we prefer more stars than less stars.
We prefer accurate stars, folks, and accurate would be 5. So thank you very much for all the reviews. Keep them coming in. Like Eric said, go to the iTunes store or whatever store you get your podcast from and leave a review. You can talk to us directly at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment on any of the episode pages on our site, theolddoctorwhoshow.com. You can follow me on Twitter at DanJNJ. You can also, more importantly, you can follow the Old Doctor Who Show on TODW Show on the Twitters. TOWS on Facebook. We also have an Instagram feed.
Show on Instagram.
Yep. We will give you guys a heads up when the episode posts. I'll post all the GIFs. I haven't made the GIFs yet, but I have a feeling this one's going to be a lot of fun to sit through and make
there's going to be a lot
GIFs.
of good.
It's a lot of tongue,
good GIFs.
I think, is going to happen in this. So you can check them all out there.
Yeah,
follow me
and
on Twitter.
After this,
Eric.
we're doing Mark of the Rani, and I hope I'm pronouncing Rani correctly. Is it Rani?
I don't know why I've wanted to watch this one forever. I think when I first started watching New Who and decided, maybe I should go back and watch some classic Doctor Who, this one came up as one that people recommended, but it was first of all, it was impossible to get these.
Was this one Mark of the Rani or Time and Rani?
Who knows?
Right. I don't know anything about what even the Rani is. If it's a race,
I have no
or
clue.
It's a person.
We're so excited to see a new thing.
We'll find out soon. So
all we do know is it is Colin Baker, and that's going to make us happy. So
yeah, and that will go up on April 18th, and then we jump into after that way down the line. But we'll have the 2 doctors, so we're going to have a Colin Baker and Peter Davison, maybe? I don't know. I don't know who the second Doctor is.
Who knows?
We will find
We're
out.
watching this for the first time, folks. I think that's it. So we'll catch you guys online, and otherwise we'll talk at you again in 3 weeks.
All right. See you, everybody.
Thanks,
good talking to you, or talking to Dan.
At you.
And then you listening, and then
in your ears.
You could talk to us, and we won't respond, but we still love you.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Okay, that's perfect then. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
All right, buddy.
All right, we're good, right?
Yeah.
Stop.